gosh, there are so many warning signs about this election. The American public assumes that our elections are secure. They're being done by citizens that care about the process, that are acting as sworn election officials and upholding their duty and their oath of office. There's this assumption that things are being taken care of. Unfortunately, very few Americans get involved. And yes, somebody is taking care of the election process. With China and their plan for the world, and they do have a plan to be be the hegemonic power, their intent is to replace us and retire us. The elections are nothing but a big, juicy target. There are so many opportunities for them. This is influence operations. These are influence operations on steroids. These are influence operations that we, in many ways, pioneered back in I would say in the 1950s with the Dulles brothers, but in many ways walked away from. They read our history. They read everything about us. And they understand influence operations on a massive scale. So for years, they have been essentially working what we would call preparation of the battle space. And a lot of that is influence operations. A lot of that is essentially payments to key individuals to acquire essentially willing enablers inside our own country. The Chinese have always been, their reputation is being noisier, less careful. They're not as concerned about being found out. And that professor last night from the clip on Tucker was very emblematic of their behavior. The Russians are known for being far more careful, far more silent, far more precise. And again, in these influence operations, I just have to be totally clear because I've actually run the numbers on this, available capital for influence operations. And the simple model is, yes, Russia interferes in our elections, and I believe they did, and they have for years. But for every dollar they spend, Soros spends 3, the Chinese spend 10. So I would, from our side, we always have to apply limited offensive and defensive resources. The threat is China. Now, in this election specifically, it is just, they were all over the place. This was a massive blitz to essentially topple our election institution. And I wish AG Barr said the other night some comments the other day. I think they were probably inappropriate. The reality is our intelligence and law enforcement resources have effectively done very little, if anything, on Chinese influence operations. Why? Because being a former intelligence officer, being a former colonel and senior official in the Department of Defense, the intelligence community, how can you even run an intelligence operation or law enforcement operation when you don't even understand the election process? Our own people do not understand our processes. Therefore, how could you even set up an operation to secure our election operations when we don't even know how our own elections operate? Chris Krebs said very inappropriate things. The more honest and truthful answer was, I don't have the resources, the staffing, the technical expertise to even say yay or nay on Chinese interference. Same with AG Barr. I think it was inappropriate. I think that was his own staff that, frankly, gives a rote response of what is the accepted truth without any modicum of actual investigation. But the Chinese here, we have the 400 million through USB securities in Switzerland to Dominion, and the mysterious nature of the 8 registered companies under the Election Assistance Commission. nobody understands what's going on. There's 8 registered companies, but when you do the business forensics, it's more like 3 and maybe even 1, and they're privately held with very little responsibility or requirement to be transparent. We have 400 million. That's on top of a payment, I believe it was in 2014, which is awfully mysterious because it was really 2015 when China rushed Office of Personnel Management and ripped off our huge list of everybody who had ever been associated with the United States government. From that, they gleaned an incredible mass of information here. But again, back to Dominion, I'm sorry, we don't understand these companies. They're privately held, 400 million before the election. We have this open talk of buying off officials. Professor Dong Sheng last night. The ballots we have on social media open, and we've confirmed them with native Mandarin speakers, talking about shipping ballots to Florida, North Carolina. There's no control measures on these mail-in ballots. There's no essentially corroboration of paper weave, paper weight. There are multiple paper types of ink types. Are they copies? Have they been folded? There's just, this is a Disneyland for China, who is looking to massively rush and overwhelm our election integrity. And they have, and they did that. I've done some of the matching in some of the financial analysis in Virginia. The number of personnel staffing, and I'm just being apolitical on this, but comparing the Republican Party and the Democrat Party in Virginia, the staffing is outrageously different. The proceeds, I would suggest, do not cover the amount of personnel they have working for the Democrat Party in Virginia, for example. Where does that extra money come from? That is very, it is very curious. So from an influence operation perspective, matched with Chinese strategy, this is just an incredible opportunity and gives them an incredible return on investment. The American election system, between the mysterious election machine companies, the absolute, the operation of those election machines makes absolutely no sense. Bringing all the votes together by all candidates and then using math to spin the numbers back out and apportion them, it makes absolutely no sense. So between the mysterious companies, the mysterious way the machines operate, between well-known active influence operations of the Chinese, our election system, we have assumed it was secure. We were concerned well in advance of this election. All the evidence points to this was and is a massive Chinese influence operation. And there's very little, what I have found is very, very few, and those are personnel who are supposed to understand our election system. Very few understand how our elections operate. And we just assume somebody is taking care of it. And that's right, somebody is taking care of it.